Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, here with a really interesting release from Australian eloquence, Decca Eloquence. The Lorin Maazel, the Radio Symphony Orchestra Berlin recordings. Now, I know what you're going to say. Another Maazel box. There have been so many Maazel boxes. A couple on DG, Decca, because he recorded for everybody. And he recorded a lot for everybody. RCA did one. Columbia did one. It's like, gee. And he was never a conductor who occasioned much love. He did some marvelous recordings, but his somewhat reptilian, emotional, sort of demeanor put some people off. He was an amazing podium technician. You always got superb results in terms of orchestral execution, but strange things would happen in his interpretations. And, he was hot and cold. I think he was a fascinating conductor and a major musician. He was an incredible child prodigy, but something didn't click in some of his performances. So I just want to say that up front. So he had an amazing career, and he made a bazillion records. And some of them are very good and some of them are not. It's like everybody else, right? But this was really interesting. First of all, a lot of his earlier recordings are his best, or some of his best. His Cleveland recordings are also pretty terrific, most of them. But his early recordings were really, really interesting. And there was a DG box called the Early Recordings, and the complete early recordings for Deutsche Grammophon. So you might ask, what's in here? Since we already have the complete early recordings on Deutsche Grammophon. Well, turns out that most of his RIAS early recordings were not made for Deutsche Grammophon. There were only 3 that are in here. There were 11 that were made for Philips in the mid-1960s. And not only are they Philips recordings, which are now Decca recordings, but they're mostly Bach and Mozart, not stuff for which Maazel was really, really well known. He did the Mozart operas, right? But Bach? Really? In the mid-60s? Big band Bach. Very big band Bach. Really unusual big band Bach. I had a good time listening to these. Some of them are a little weird, a little strange, but they're in hindsight, going back to the mid-1960s, with what we know today about Bach and performance practice and all that stuff, they're characterful. They're different. Bach people, I think, are going to want to hear these. So let's go through the box and let's talk about what we have. And also, by the way, you may want to hear the Bach stuff for the soloists as much as for the conducting, because he does have some terrific solo singers here. And not just Bach, there's Pergolesi. Yes, I kid you not. So we begin with the Bach orchestral suites, done with, his handling of the overtures is always a little strange. It's heavy-handed possibly. He used double woodwinds, a big string section, 10 basses, who knows, 6 basses, lots of basses. The continuo isn't too audible. That's fine with me. I don't think it should ever be that audible. Like I said, they're different. Some things are quick, some things are slower than usual, but they're done very well. Because one thing with Maazel is he always got the results he wanted. That you could be sure of. So you've got the 4 orchestral suites, first of all, and then the Brandenburg concertos. Yes, all of them. And some of them are quite lively. The opening of the 5th concerto is incredibly zippy. Surprisingly so, given when the thing was recorded. I like these Brandenburgs, actually. I thought they were fun. The solo instruments are strongly highlighted in the mix by the engineers, so they really sound concerto-y, and they were fun. I had a good time listening to the slow movement of number 4, the way the double basses grind at the openings. Whoa, baby! There's some serious stuff going on there. They're sui generis, I guess, but they're not unmusical, and they're not bizarre for their own sake. He has a conviction about how the music ought to go. And who knew? Who knew this? I didn't even know this stuff existed, I have to say. And I know a lot about what existed. I had no idea he made all these recordings for Philips in the mid-'60s. They were never in print in my lifetime that I remember. I mean, they were when I was a kid, I suppose, but Philips, remember, was before they became part of Polygram and became sort of an international label. They were a very local label in Holland, and so you could have gotten some of these things as imports, but some people who are older than I am might recall seeing them in record shops. I never did. I just never noticed them. So then you've got the Bach Easter Oratorio with Helen Donat, Anna Reynolds, Ernst Haefliger, Marty Talvala, the RAIS Kammerchor, which even in the 60s was a very good chorus. So it's well sung and well played. You have the B minor Mass. This is a little unusual. The Kyrie is slow. Not quite Scherchen slow, but slow. Then things liven up a bit. The whole performance takes almost exactly 2 hours. And again, the soloist, Teresa Stich-Randall, Anna Reynolds, Ernst Haefliger, John Shirley Quirk, young, fresh John Shirley Quirk, doing the Quoniam. So that's kind of cool. Handel's fireworks music and water music. Well, this is a little unusual because in the overture to the fireworks music, he doesn't double dot the rhythms at all. Something sounds really four square the way he does it, and but it's, I don't know. I don't find it very Handelian. Let me put it to you that way. It seems kind of counting the notes a little bit, metronomic, which Maazel could be, because he was the very, to the beat type kind of guy. So the Handel disc didn't impress me terribly much. The Pergolesi Stabat Mater with Evelyn Lear and Christa Ludwig, and female voices from the RAIS Kammerchor. Well, that's interesting. And the singing's beautiful. You have two wonderful soloists. Mozart's last four symphonies, 38, 39, 40, and 41. These are good performances. Good, solid, big band Mozart. Disciplined and clear, and exactly the way Maazel sounds. Disciplined and clear in music of the classical repertoire. He didn't do that much, so I guess those are valuable. The finale of the Jupiter really goes. It's exciting. It's nice to hear. I was prepared to jump all over this and say, what the hell, But he was a talent. He was a tremendous talent. We have to admit it. I have to give credit where credit is due. Then he does the New World Symphony, a very exciting performance with the first movement exposition repeat, which is very, very unusual. This was, 67? 66. Goodness gracious. So, that's nice to have in a zippy scherzo where you hear the canonic interplay of the melody rather nicely. Almost Klemperer-like, but at a much quicker tempo. And then we have the DG recordings, which we know. You've got the Franck D minor, a very good performance of that. Stravinsky's Firebird and Song of the Nightingale. Those are also good. The percussion is sort of somewhere else, but, because that orchestra had sort of a grotty percussion section for most of its life until recently. And then El Amor Brujo Ballet with Grace Bumbry. Not the most idiomatic performance of that either, but certainly rhythmic enough and well sung and decent, and some dances from the Three-Cornered Hat, El Sombrero de Tres Picos. So those were already in the other box. So we've talked about them, and you can read my review of the big box at classicstoday.com. It's there, disc by disc. And this is a pleasant surprise, and a genuine surprise. It really was. For me, I'd be curious to get your opinion on Maazel's Bach, particularly because it was not universally acclaimed, according to the booklet, on original release, and I'm not surprised. Just think, Philips already had, Joachim doing all that stuff, or a lot of that stuff, not the suites and concertos, but the choral works. And, Richter was running around doing all of those things, Carl Richter, and in the 60s, and here this was. Kind of anomalous. And it still is anomalous, but it's a collector's item, and I'm happy to have it. So keep on listening, friends. Thanks for joining me. Take care.